It's really gusting.
Lieutenant Colonel Robin Arvidsson is a Swedish fighter pilot and squadron commander.
But some days it's just too windy to fly, and it's not because the aircraft can't handle it in the air. It's because if we have to eject, we don't want to. It's really
to defend Sweden, of course, and but to do it alone and do it from Swedish territory, and that is becoming more and more difficult task.
Canada is about to make a decision that could shake the entire fighter jet world. What if the underdog Gripen is actually beating the world's most advanced jets? Why is Canada suddenly rethinking its billion-dollar F-35 deal right now? From NATO missions to real intercepts, the Gripen is proving itself where it matters most. And here's the twist. The US is warning Canada not to walk away. So the real question is this about jets or global power? Canada is standing at a huge turning point right now, and it's not just about fighter jets. It's about power, politics, and the future of its Air Force. Two giants are going head-to-head, Sweden's Saab Gripen and America's Lockheed Martin F-35. But here's where things get interesting. Prime Minister Mark Carney has ordered a fresh review of Canada's massive F-35 deal, and the timing isn't random. With rising tensions and trade pressure linked to Donald Trump, Canada is now seriously questioning whether relying on US-made jets is the right move. And suddenly, the Gripen, once dismissed as small, defensive, and outclassed, is back in the spotlight. For years, critics treated it like the underdog, a lightweight jet not built for real combat dominance. But that narrative took a serious hit during Red Flag Alaska 2006, where Swedish Gripens reportedly shocked everyone by scoring multiple air-to-air kills without a single loss, even going head-to-head with powerful jets like the Eurofighter Typhoon and F-16s. And in one intense moment, a single Gripen pilot reportedly outmaneuvered 5 F-16s alone. While these numbers came from Swedish sources and weren't officially confirmed by the US Air Force, they were strong enough to turn heads and earn the aircraft another invite. So the big question is, has the world been underestimating the Gripen all along? On paper, it doesn't look like a heavyweight. Single engine, smaller payload, less fuel, and designed for efficiency, not brute force. Compared to legends like the F-15 Eagle or the advanced stealth F-35, it was often labeled as the budget option. But now, with Canada rethinking its strategy, that so-called budget jet might actually be the smarter, more flexible choice in a rapidly changing world. And as this decision unfolds, it won't just shape Canada's military, it could shift the balance of global defense partnerships. If you're following this story, don't forget to like and subscribe, because what happens next might surprise everyone.
For decades, the F-16 Fighting Falcon built its reputation in real combat across multiple wars, proving itself again and again, while the Eurofighter Typhoon stood as Europe's bold technological answer to advanced Soviet threats, designed not just to compete, but to dominate. And standing next to these giants, Sweden's Gripen looked modest, smaller, quieter, almost overlooked. But that image wasn't really about capability, it was about perception. Sweden wasn't part of NATO back then, it hadn't fought major wars in years, and there were no dramatic combat clips or headlines pushing the Gripen into the spotlight. It was built for a different mission, defending a neutral country with limited resources and vast territory. So analysts made a simple assumption. This jet was for patrolling borders, not for taking on elite air forces. It could save money, stay efficient, maybe deter, but it wasn't supposed to win. And that belief felt logical, until it was completely shattered. Because Red Flag Alaska isn't a place for theory, it's where assumptions go to die. Run by the US Air Force, it pushes pilots and machines into near-real combat conditions, intense electronic warfare, limited support, constant pressure, no room for mistakes. In 2006, Sweden stepped into that arena with the Gripen, assigned as the enemy. And the opposition? Some of the best in the world. US F-16 Block 50s, Eurofighter Typhoons, and the legendary F-15C Eagle. Everything suggested the Gripen would struggle. Limited support, reduced radar coverage, fewer resources, it was set up to fail. But what happened next flipped the entire narrative. Instead of relying on traditional airborne warning systems, the Gripen pilots did something different. They leaned on their advanced data link network, sharing real-time information between jets, creating a level of coordination that caught their opponents off guard. And in that moment, the underestimated fighter started to rewrite its own story. Now here's where things take a dramatic turn. The Gripen didn't fight like traditional jets, it fought smarter. Instead of every aircraft blasting its radar and giving away its position, one jet would briefly switch on its radar, collect all the battlefield data, and instantly share it with the rest of the team. The others stayed completely silent, invisible, but fully aware of everything happening around them. This wasn't centralized control, it was shared awareness. And because of that, enemy pilots often had no idea where the Gripens were until it was already too late. What looked like a weakness on paper suddenly became a powerful advantage in the sky. And the results? On day one of Red Flag Alaska, they shocked everyone. 10 air-to-air kills, including a Eurofighter Typhoon and multiple F-16 Block 50s, with 0 losses for the Gripens. In one intense dogfight, a single Gripen pilot reportedly outmaneuvered and defeated 5 F-16s alone, something traditional performance charts would say is almost impossible. But it didn't stop there. The Gripen also proved its reliability, becoming the only aircraft in the exercise to complete every single mission in all weather conditions, something that matters massively in real-world operations. Of course, critics pushed back, saying these numbers came from Swedish sources. Fair point. But then came independent confirmation from Norway. In another set of engagements, 3 Swedish Gripens faced 5 Norwegian F-16s, flown by NATO-trained pilots. And once again, the outcome repeated. In the final round, the score ended 5-1, and this time it wasn't marketing, it was recorded by a NATO ally. Suddenly, the Gripen wasn't just competing, it was proving it could outperform one of the most battle-tested fighters in the world. Still, doubts remained, because exercises are controlled environments, real operations are different, and that question lingered until history changed. In March 2024, Sweden officially joined NATO after more than 200 years of neutrality, and almost immediately, there was no warm-up, no transition period. Within hours, Gripens were flying real missions under NATO command. On March 11th, Swedish Gripens alongside Belgian F-16s intercepted a Russian aircraft over the Baltic Sea, and later that same day, they flew again with German Eurofighters to intercept another. No delay, no hesitation. Just instant integration into one of the most powerful military alliances in the world. And suddenly, the Gripen wasn't just an outsider anymore. It was on the front line.
And what happened next proved that this wasn't just luck in an exercise. The Gripen could deliver in the real world. As soon as Sweden joined NATO, its pilots integrated almost instantly, flying side by side with Allied aircraft and plugging directly into NATO command systems as if they had been operating together for years. Then, in April 2025, the story moved from theory to reality when Gripens deployed to Poland under NATO's Enhanced Air Policing mission. Alongside British Eurofighter Typhoons, Swedish pilots began real intercept missions against Russian aircraft approaching or testing Allied airspace. These were not practice runs, these were live operations with real stakes and real consequences. And in that high-pressure environment, the Gripen didn't rely on flashy headlines. It quietly proved itself through consistent performance, reliability, and mission success. That track record started to change how countries looked at their future fighter choices, and suddenly, Canada was right in the middle of that conversation. Ottawa had already committed to buying 88 F-35s from Lockheed Martin and even received its first batch, promising cutting-edge stealth and deep integration with U.S. forces. But then politics stepped in. With Donald Trump back in power and threatening tariffs on Canada's aerospace sector, tensions began to rise, and questions about long-term dependence on the U.S. started to surface. That's when Sweden stepped forward with a very different offer, one that went beyond just selling jets. Saab proposed building a full production line inside Canada, not just assembling parts, but actually manufacturing the aircraft locally. The deal included 72 Gripens and advanced GlobalEye surveillance aircraft, with a huge economic boost, over 12,000 jobs, thousands tied directly to production, and others to high-tech development with partners like Bombardier. But the real game changer was control, full technology transfer, access to source code, and the ability for Canada to upgrade and modify its own jets without asking anyone for permission. That means true independence, not just capability on paper. And this isn't just a promise, it's already been done. Brazil followed the same path with Gripen, building its own expertise, training engineers, and creating a growing defense industry around the program. So now the question isn't just which jet is better, it's which future Canada wants to build.
And now this story goes even bigger, because it's no longer just about Canada. Ukraine has already signed a letter of intent to buy between 100 and 150 Gripens, while countries like France and Germany are showing interest in the GlobalEye system. Think about that for a second. If production moves to Canada, Ottawa doesn't just become a buyer, it becomes an exporter, creating long-term economic power instead of relying on constant imports. But let's be real, no government can ignore cost. And this is where things get very clear. Back in 2012, a major aerospace study showed the Gripen CD operating at around $4,700 per flight hour, far cheaper than competitors. Even today, newer estimates still tell the same story. The Gripen EF sits around $22,000 per hour, while upgraded F-16s are higher, and the F-35A can go beyond $46,000 per hour. That's not a small gap. That's a massive difference over decades of operations. No matter how you calculate it, the conclusion stays the same. The Gripen is one of the most affordable fighters to run in the modern world. But this debate isn't just about performance or cost anymore. It's political. The U.S. ambassador to Canada even warned that canceling the F-35 deal could impact NORAD cooperation, sending a clear message that this decision goes beyond aircraft. It touches alliance trust and strategic relationships. Inside Canada, the debate is heating up, with military leaders, including former Royal Canadian Air Force Chief Tom Lawson, weighing in from different sides. And that's what makes this moment so critical. This isn't just a procurement decision. It's a choice about independence, alliances, and the future of Canada's defense strategy. If you found this breakdown valuable, make sure to subscribe and stay with the channel, because this story is far from over, and what happens next could reshape the balance of power for years to come.